What's going on, everybody? Got part 3 for you here. We are going to be working on the Xbox One power button. We're going to be changing the color of the LED. And I hope this particular video gets around. I typically try not to watch anybody else's tutorials. I like to do it my own way, not pick up any bad habits, etc. But I did watch a few of these because a couple people, since I hadn't done it, a couple people had asked me to check them out and see if they were any good, and they definitely weren't. So hopefully this gets around and people learn how to do this correctly. It's really not hard. It's just I think a lot of amateurs get in there and they end up damaging their stuff, and then they have to replace this RF board, and it gets to be a mess. So also with this video, bear with me. I'm actually behind the camera, and so to try to give you like a first-person perspective or whatever. So it might be kind of weird for me to get adjusted to. I'm just trying to give you guys the best view I can here. So obviously you're going to need a soldering iron. I've got these little called reverse tweezers, and that way when there's no pressure they're closed, and that's great when you're trying to hold those little tiny LEDs. And then of course we have the actual LEDs. Now this, unlike the Xbox 360, this is actually a bigger LED. The Xbox 360 uses 0603 SMD LEDs, but this one you can use the bigger size. I think it's like 8 something, 806 or 812. I don't even remember now. But you can still use the 603 or the 0603. And that's what I'm going to use here. It is a little bit smaller, and you do have to be a little bit more careful with it because you know, the solder points are a little bit farther apart, but it is absolutely still doable, and they absolutely still run at the same voltage too, so it's going to be just as bright, it's going to look just as good if you use the smaller size. It's especially convenient for anybody that's got these things laying around. Alright, so first things first is we got to, oh, you also need some solder, but hopefully that was kind of obvious. First things first is we got to remove the LED, which is right here. There's only one LED, and it's actually really cool. I swear it's like they set this Xbox One up to where they want us to mod it and stuff, because there's little charts on these things. I mean, wires are labeled to which way they're supposed to go. Wires are labeled with voltages. It's very strange, much different than the 360, which you just have to find for yourself. But with that, there is a little chart down here, kinda, and it's like a little arrow. And typically, your small LEDs will have an arrow underneath. So essentially, you just put the arrow facing the same direction as that, and boom. Now, some of them have different diagrams on the bottom. Actually, let me see if I can. I don't think I'm gonna be able to get this in there. Let me see if I can. Hold on. I'm going to move the camera. Bear with me, guys. This is actually my little thing for the Xbox One power button, one of my little charts. And as you can see, there's 4 connects. The top 2 are blank. The left connection, while you're looking straight at it, as if it was actually still installed inside the console, would be negative, and then the right is the positive. So you can see I've also drawn the arrow on here too, which is the same place the arrow is on there. So in case you get one, sometimes it's like a straight line and a line like this, or sometimes it's even like a weird trapezoidal figure. You'll know at least which one's negative and positive for the rest of us. So let's get this back into position here. Yeah, I like that nifty little chart with all the different consoles and stuff. You gotta make sure not to get them, the polarities mixed up and all that. So all we're really going to do here is, I really like the chisel tip. I don't know, this thing is terrible about focus. It has no autofocus, but the chisel tip is great, especially if you're using a decent soldering iron. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to melt some solder right onto it. This is really weird watching me do this through the camera, by the way. And then we're just going to apply it. We're going to put, there's a contact on each side. Okay, we're going to put a bunch there, put a bunch there, just keep applying it. A, that's going to make it easier to remove, and B, it's going to the solder is typically a much higher melting temperature than anything you're going to buy, so it'll mix together and make it easier to melt it. Now this is the part where I've cringed on some other people's videos where they're just like, they're melting one side and trying to pry it off going the other way, and I'm just like, oh my god, because you can rip the pads off. Honestly, you can do a million different things wrong there. So don't have quite enough solder. I seriously, absolutely just put way too much solder on here. There we go. Because, I mean, you can pull all this stuff off, not a big deal. We're putting a new LED on, so it doesn't matter if there's a bunch of solder. There are not many connections here, so it's not like you will accidentally get solder into something you shouldn't get it in. And you know, just as a weird thing, this thing does have two connections. The top one is blank, but I've always wondered, could you put more LEDs in there? I mean, is there, I don't know. I'll have to play with that someday, but something interesting to think about. But for our purposes, we're obviously just working with the bottom set. Okay, now since the LEDs I'm using are smaller, I'm adding, now that I've got all that solder off, I'm going to put more on it. It's going to make it a lot easier to fit that little smaller size LED in there. Okay, so now I've got these, and this part I'm going to have to do off camera, but I'm going to grab one of these off and get it inside of my little reverse plot thingamo, whatever. My mind just went blank. And if you don't have a set of these reverse, dang it, mine went blank again. These reverse things, it's definitely worth it, especially if you're soldering, because that is so helpful. Alright, so I've got it in there. I'm going to actually let it. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I realized my camera battery was going to die soon, so I cut it off and let it charge for a little bit. We just removed the old LED, and we're getting ready to pull one of these guys out and get ready to install it. So I got to do that part off camera because I'm kind of behind the camera. It's very awkward. Okay, I'm just going to set this LED down so it'll be flat. Oh, and I just lost it. Man, these things are so tiny, it's ridiculous. Okay, let me get another one out. Alright, now we're just going to get it in there, and then remember what I said about the little arrows? Just make sure that yours is facing the right way, or use that chart. If you need to use that chart, that'll be fine too, the one I showed you earlier, in case you have a different type. Oh, turn the LED a little bit. Let me fix that. Just heating up the soldering pad. Trying to be as easy with as I can on this reinstall, especially since I'm using the smaller ones, and those things, as you can see, tend to go everywhere. Okay, there's one side. Now, the other side is farther away, so I'm going to have to put some extra solder because we're using this smaller size LED. So I'm going to have to kind of cake this stuff up right here to get it to make the distance between the actual pad and the LED. There we go. I just caked some extra stuff on there. Hopefully you can kind of see that on the camera, but if not, if you realize that it's too short because you're using a smaller one, just do what I did and just throw a bunch of extra solder and then kind of work it over that way until it connects that other side. So that's pretty much it, guys. There's really not much to it. It can be difficult if you don't know how to solder, I guess, if you've never done it. And so that's why I do offer these pre-made. Just check the link in the description below, and you'll see the link to our website where you can buy one of these with the color of your choice, too. If you're watching this tutorial through our website, you can just scroll down below this video, and there's some more info about the LEDs and the link to pick up a pre-made one too, if that's a lot easier for you. So anyways, guys, this was part 3. I believe part 4 we're going to work with the LED kit, which is going to be kind of different, especially for my regular subscribers. If you guys have watched a lot of my videos, some of these series installing LED kits and stuff are kind of similar, but this one's going to be different because of the way the case is built and the way the motherboard shell is built. So definitely check out part 4, which is going to be the next one, for the LED kits, and we'll see you next time.